My mom was born when her sister Rosemary was born. Institutionalization was the norm. Sterilization was the norm. The language used to describe people with intellectual challenges was idiot, imbecile, moron. Institutes were created for defectology and deviance. The Supreme Court was mandating sterilization programs. I mean, this is not 500 years ago. This is when my mom was a little girl.
If you were born in the first half of the 20th century with what is now called an intellectual disability, your chances to live a vibrant life were non-existent. Times have changed, but change needed a leader, and no one did more for the cause than Eunice Kennedy Shriver. Eunice's sister Rosemary suffered from seizures and extreme mood swings when she was young. Her father thought a prefrontal lobotomy might help. Instead, Rosemary became one of 200,000 Americans that were living in an institution, most behind 12-foot walls in decrepit conditions, all thought to have no capabilities.
The experts had told her that her sister had no hope. Had no hope to live, had no hope to play sports, had no hope to enjoy life, had no hope, and she was clear that that wasn't true for her sister, and it didn't have to be true for anyone else. So she had a deep skepticism of people that told her there was a right way to do things.
She learned the power of sport through her own experience of exclusion, through growing up in a man's world, wanting to be a politician, not having her voice heard because she was a woman. And so she started playing football with all the boys.
I remember being in her backyard once, and we were playing football. We were throwing, 8 years old, I don't know, just messing around, but playing. And she came out and she called me over to the side, and she said, "Timbo, it looks like you guys are doing great. It looks like you're having a lot of fun, but where are the girls?" I go, "Grandma, the girls don't want to play football." She's like, "Timbo, if you're playing in my backyard, you got to have girls on the field."
A global movement started to slowly build in 1962. Mothers had complained to Eunice that there was not a place to send their special children to camp. Eunice had had enough. Camp Shriver, at her home, opened for business, despite the challenges of the times.
She's a fearless leader, was a fearless leader. She didn't take no for her answer, because we all know women at that time had it tough. Even though she had a brother in a position at that time, she still had it tough to convince people that we needed to make a change.
It's 1962. She is the sister of the sitting president, and she is inviting busfuls of people with severe intellectual disabilities, moderate to severe intellectual disabilities, mostly coming from institutions, black, white, and everywhere in between, in the middle of 1962, in the middle of the civil rights movement.
Most of the response people had to her work was, well, she's, Eunice is a little off. Eunice is doing her own thing. Eunice has all that interest in those children. No one else was interested in disability. No one was interested in sport as an important social change agent. She was not seen as an important actor, honestly.
For those at Camp Shriver and the years that followed, lifelong lessons about competing and inclusion were impossible to miss.
If you learn to play together, you don't have to unlearn bias, because you never learned it to begin with. I learned how to play kickball, and as it turns out, I couldn't have told you this, I learned how to play kickball with people with Down syndrome. I was just playing kickball.
For me growing up, I never thought of it as a cause or anything like that, because I was just jumping in the pool with other kids. And I was just getting a swimming lesson from my grandma with other kids. And they happened to have intellectual disabilities, but it wasn't kind of like, oh, this is a cause I'm joining. It was just a normalized thing.
She was in the pool teaching people to kick and teaching people how to swim. She was, not only was she doing all this, she wasn't doing it sitting on her porch watching. She wasn't hiring help to figure out how to make it happen. She wasn't funding it. She was in the frickin' pool, and she was, crawling along the obstacle course. She was showing people how to do it.
The success of Camp Shriver turned into the first ever Special Olympics, 1968, Chicago, Illinois. 1,000 plus competitors battled it out that day from the United States and Canada. The goal? Well, it was to win.
I think a lot of people look at Special Olympics and think it's kind of like, oh, everyone gets gold medals and like shakes people, slaps each other on the back. Like, my grandmother was not that way. When my grandmother was playing, there were winners and there were losers. She loved that, and that's how she grew up, and that's how she created Special Olympics. She really thought competition was a great thing.
50 plus years later, there are over 100,000 Special Olympic events played each year. The core goal of the Games will never change.
This is not a sweet movement, and I've heard people think that the oath for Special Olympics is a sweet one and it's about bravery. The oath is, let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. My grandma took that oath from the gladiators of ancient Rome. So it's not a sweet oath, it's an oath that gladiators used. And she was definitely a gladiator herself. And the oath, I would say that it's all about being brave enough to stay on that playing field and not leave it and really try and win.
That's kind of the fairest leader we had. She wasn't allowing people to disrupt the journey of the work or the journey or the vision of people with intellectual disability.
Eunice Kennedy Shriver passed away in 2009. She would have turned 100 years old in 2021. Her impact continues through her children and grandchildren.
The movement's different today, very different. That's a movement for healthcare. It's a movement for unified classrooms, for unified schools, for unified sports.
Looking back, the movement really began and continued with a special relationship of two sisters.
Rosemary had a hard time speaking. And so a lot of times, to me at least growing up, it sounded like she was just mumbling and I didn't understand what she was saying. And my grandma would sit next to her at the dinner table and translate everything she was saying. She would just hear it and then she would say to everyone what Rosemary said. And I was like, wow, that is the coolest friendship of all time.
And if Eunice was alive today during these challenging times, her son has little doubt what her message would be.
I think my mom at 100, were she with us in this dimension of reality, I think she'd be very proud of what has happened in the 100 years, even though, to be perfectly honest, she'd be still sticking me in the side with her pencil saying we have more to do.